so much for joining me, Imaan, on Hustling from Home. It's nice to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So, tell me a little bit about Suntuity.
So Suntuity is a renewable energy company. It's a US-based company, and I run the Asia Pacific operations. I started it over here in 2012, and we focus more on solar energy at the moment because that's like the biggest source of renewable energy today in the world and the most reliable out of all the types of renewable energy that we have. So basically, we are into designing, engineering, procurement, consultancy, and development, integration. So we do everything with renewable energy, basically. And we've been here since 2012, so we've been here since quite some time, 8, 9 years. And I've been in this industry myself since 2010. So it's been a long time.
Wow, yeah. All right. So, I'm sure you know that non-renewable energy, even after installation, requires a significant amount of labor work going on in the background.
Yeah,
For energy generation as compared to renewable sources.
right.
So, how do you think having a green energy sector in India, a strong green energy sector, could have better supported our contractual labor?
So, what I think that, I mean, having green energy itself is the biggest benefit for any country to start with because it is constantly you are trying to get people engaged in giving more job opportunities to them, right? Especially contractual labor. Like, solar industry needs a lot of unskilled labor, right, in moving a lot of material. And they'll be constantly deployed somewhere or another in some projects because most of these projects, the larger renewable energy projects that take place, they happen more in the rural areas. So it gives them a better opportunity to work towards these projects and make a living out of it. Also, it gives them the power, supplies them the electricity for their homes. So the issues that we have in most of our villages where they don't have power, right? When people are actually working in this sector, they kind of get a little benefit from it, saying, okay, I'll get a little bit of electricity power at my house and I'll be able to live a better life. So it helps in the welfare of the people as well as, of course, their daily wages or however. Most of the companies, if they have a lot of projects in the pipeline, they have these contractual labors and not on daily wages. So now they also have the security of a little, job, though it may be at a very low price or whatever it is, but at least there's job security is there that, I have to go here and then after this site, I'll be going to the next site. So stuff like that. So that's how I feel it would have had a little balance. But at the moment, with COVID, it's just not possible for anyone to step out, unfortunately, this situation. If there was any other situation, I think we would be able to tackle it a little better with renewable energy. But now this is a matter of life and death, and no one wants to risk their life in this situation. So it's a little dangerous situation, I would say. But again, we are the ones who have caused this situation to arise, right? That's what my belief is. A lot of people may not agree with me, but I feel that we have exploited Mother Nature to another extent, and it's time. She's just telling us that you would realize what you have done before things get too late, right? This is just a virus. Tomorrow you may have um, extreme heat waves and a lot of pollution, which will kill people again with similar respiratory issues. You cannot breathe. And what's the point of making masks a permanent solution in our life? We don't want to be living with masks every time. Today it's maybe an N95 mask. Tomorrow it may be some oxygen cylinder or something. So I think it's time we realize that we got to move towards sustainability and be able to coexist with nature and other animals together in this world.
Taking from the pressing need of the world to move towards a more sustainable energy foundation, what would you say is the relationship between India's economy and its energy sector?
So at the moment, our prime minister actually he's got a very good vision, right, to take India to another level. But I think we don't have the right support system for that. I would say, as um, as enthusiastic he may be, right? We need to have the correct policies in place. We need to have the correct support in place, and we need to have the correct support towards the correct sectors. Right now, I think we are subsidizing a lot of coal and other non-renewable energy sources, which is being subsidized more than the renewable energy sources, right? So I think that needs to change a little bit over there, right? In 2018, the PM said that he wants to take India to $5 trillion economy GDP. Right now we are at in 2008. Sorry, last year he said that, and in 2018 we are at 2.7, and he said by 2024-25, he would like to take it to that level, and for that, that's almost double of what we currently are. So if we are saying that we want to be there, we want to double up, then we really need to double up our game towards reaching it, right? And at the moment, it's not going the way it is planned. COVID has put a full stop to it, anyways, right now, and it's going to make it even more difficult. Currently, with our renewable energy sector itself, I think with this entire COVID situation, we have gone back almost. We have lost 3% of our installation capacity during this entire period, right? We've lost half a year almost, because this may have hit us now in March when we had lockdowns, but the renewable energy sector in India is reliable a lot on China. Almost 80% of its components come from China. And since China was already facing this issue since December, Jan, a lot of things had come to a full stop there. No exports were happening. So we already being hit from that period on till now. So it's not like we're just dealing with 1 month, where it's been a quarter that we are still stuck with projects not happening because supplies are not coming in, and now also supplies are still not coming in. Not only China, then there are other countries that we have our supplies from, and they're also not exporting, right? I mean, so the economy is really badly hit. The renewable energy sector is really badly hit with COVID, and the worst part is that people don't think it's a priority for them right now, because right now it's more like survival. You got to just survive. So no one's really going to even think on that perspective. But I think the government needs to start focusing on that right after COVID, and the recovery should be keeping sustainability in mind. We've got a very good opportunity now. You see, our skies are blue, the ocean is more blue. You feel better while breathing air and stuff. So I think our recovery should be keeping sustainability in mind, and how we can live in an environment-friendly, fashion, along with coming back and recovering from this entire situation.
So, why do you think sustainability and growth are always contradictory subjects? Why can't they work together?
They can work together. We make them work together, right? But I think for us, I mean, as India, um, so India is basically 177th out of the 180 list that is there for sustainability in the world, right? And we're far lagging behind. So we really need to advance our technology, right? If we advance our technology and come up with new technologies which can work hand in hand, right? That will help us a lot. But right now, I think India is focusing more on, of course, economic growth, right? We want to be there in the world, as an economically strong country, but we're not realizing the damages that we are causing while we're doing that. There are a lot of other countries which are doing the same thing, or maybe they're a little more developed compared to us, but they have it balanced out between environment and economy both. There are countries which have certain places where you're not supposed to drive cars and stuff. But if you see in our country, you'll have one family which has two people, but they own 4 and 5 cars, right? So stuff like that. But now, as we move more towards EV vehicles, right, I think that will change things a lot. I think that will increase the economy as well, and it will also have sustainability come into the picture, because we're finally come to realization that we need to still have a world to live in and to breathe, and just trying to increase our economy without being able to survive is not going to work. So it is coming slowly and eventually, but I think it needs to be done at a faster pace.
And what role do you think artificial intelligence can play in catalyzing the process?
So artificial intelligence is actually really scary to me, to be honest. Um, Artificial intelligence can play a very good role. It has its pros and cons, I would say. Let's talk about the pros first. So, for example, um, nowadays I think in phones also they have started using artificial intelligence, right? Where if you it studies your pattern of using your phone, of using your apps, and whichever apps that you are more favorable towards, right, it provides more batteries towards that app, so that while you're using the app you don't run into issues, and the less used apps are given a less source less battery or whatever. However, I'm not sure how it works exactly, but basically it controls based on your pattern, based on your it studies you first of all, and then based on that. So in the same way, in the in energy sector, if this is used, for example, we will be able to they can use it where they have certain areas or regions that are connected with artificial intelligence, and based on the study of how the demand is in that area for electricity, and the way people use it, or it can also be customized, where when the power cost is lower, like you have time of day use power, right? So you can have it set up in such a way where the cost is lower. That is when you use the appliances which need more power, so that you can save on electricity cost, and there's a balance of demand as well from the grid, all of that. So it's basically it's being studied right now. It's being put into tests, right? But I don't think it's yet there. They have already started implementing artificial intelligence in a lot of new electronics that are coming out. But I think we're a little far away from that yet. In order for us to get to that, I think we need to just be available around first, and deal with these crises, and then we can think of that, right? So I think that's the biggest focus. I mean, for me at least, that's the biggest focus, that if there's no world to live in, what is the point of all of this? So that is what I keep telling people, and when I talk to them, and they think I'm a fool, but they don't realize that I mean, we need it's the basic stuff that humans need, right? Without air, you cannot breathe, and with food, you cannot survive. Decent food, you don't want to be living and then have to deal with cancer and stuff because some pesticide was used to increase productivity. These are all short-term goals. We have to look at the larger picture for a long-term goal, right? So I feel that first, sustainability is the most important. Then you bring in artificial intelligence. Yes, to boost it, that's okay, but completely you cannot rely on that. But we need to first have a balance between sustainable future and the economy as well.
So, do you think that using artificial intelligence to take over work that usually manual labor does can be used to reorganize labor into sustainable sectors in order to catalyze the process of sustainability?
So, like I said, artificial intelligence has its limitations also, right? Definitely, you cannot use it to replace labor, like manual workforce labor. That needs to still be there. But yes, controlling things and monitoring things, or anything of that sort where you can replace it with people, you can definitely. There will always be, of course, a little bit room for error there as well, and also with humans, right? It's not going to be 100% fail-proof solution, but because the human brain is developed in such a way that if some situation comes up, we can think outside the box and do something to take care of it. But artificial intelligence is basically going to be set up in such a way, right, where it may not think as the human brain or may not respond in the same way that is actually required in that situation. So it has its pros, it has its cons. It can be replaced in a couple of places, it can be used to advance things, but I don't think it can replace humans completely.
Right. Okay, so let's take a hypothetical scenario then. Let's say AI is used to take over some economic operations, which are generally labor intensive, but the same function can be fulfilled by machines. So let's say they take that over. In that scenario, what kind of energy do you think will be best to bolster that economy, renewable or non renewable?
I think renewable any day. I mean, I see a lot of countries actually move towards 100% renewable energy, and I think that's what we should focus on. Uh, you know, anyways, we are depleting our coal content in the country, and it's just labor intensive, right? It may be a little bit cheaper, but I think in the end, renewable energy is going to be cheaper than the fossil fuel derived power. But yes, I think renewable energy. They say that renewable energy. It's not actually. I'm sorry, cut me. It's not. They say, but I know that renewable energy sometimes is not reliable because of the climate conditions, right? The weather conditions during monsoon, etc. But again, the change in these conditions are because of the change in our climate itself, and that is because of our own activity, right? So if we try to bring our climate back to where it was, right, and we know for certain that this is how it's going to work, that is when artificial intelligence will come into picture and will say that, this is how the climate is going to be, and accordingly set what is required, how much energy demand is required. Or if it senses that there's going to be a cloudy day or something, it can have a backup, push in more power. So according to that, yes, it can work very well. But in the end, if we have our climate back like how it was, like I would say 15 years back, we knew for certain that monsoon is going to start on the 10th of June and end by the end of August, right? And it's very defined. Right now it has changed because of all this climate change, right? So when we have defined lines and parameters to work within, then it's easier for us to understand on what is the path forward and how we can cater to that and what needs to be done, right? But that's why I say we need to first make sure we have a sustainable, we have an environment where we are comfortable living in, right? And we know that these are the parameters we have to work within, and then we can make renewable energy a little more, say it's a little more reliable, because then we have our backup ready when it is not going to be available, right? So that is basically, there are a lot of permutation combinations in this entire thing, and that's why a lot of analysis has to be done when keeping taking these things in consideration and defining what has to be done. But that is how I see it, that it can be defined, it can be reliable if we have our stuff sorted and we know how it's going to go.
So, based on what you're saying, most countries in the world right now are stuck in a vicious cycle of using fossil fuels for development, then exacerbating climate change, and then not being able to rely on renewable energy. So, where do you think is the weakest link in this process that can be used to break this vicious cycle?
uh, Weakest link in this process, um, I think if we have our policies in place, and if we have our end goals, we know our demands, what it's going to be, right? If, for example, we know that the country is going to use a certain amount of load, right? And if it is can be the entire system can be designed in such a way where we know what sort of power generation facility is going to provide how much power towards that facility. We should be able to come up with a designed system for that city or town or whatever it may be, or country, right? But the thing is that what happens is, most of the time we don't know exactly what is going to be the end usage. A lot of new technologies are coming up. A lot of people just add random things, and then when things prop out of nowhere, that is when we have an imbalance in understanding on what we actually need to focus on and what our end goals should be. So I think understanding your country's need, and understanding what your capability is and how much your country can produce through renewable sources, through non-renewable sources, and what it would take to move away from non-renewable sources, right? It's not that solar is the only way or wind is the only non-renewable. There are many other non-renewable sources which can work when we have, say, a monsoon, the monsoons. We can use another sort of renewable source to generate power. So they all have to be interlinked, dependent on each other, to be able to back up for the absence of one sort of power production. I mean, thermal is basically available anytime. You throw in the coal and it's going to give it to you instantaneously power, right? But if we have a little planning done between all sorts of renewable energy, I think that will break this entire thing that, non-renewable is required.
Right. So based on that, then, would you say that the shift to renewables should be gradual or drastic, and why?
I think we're far beyond that situation where it should be gradual anymore. I think it needs to be quick because I look at COVID situation actually as a boon to the world, and it has put everything to a full stop. Letting nature take recover a little bit, and making us also realize that you need to be able to let nature be there around you. So that has already given us the signal that do it soon, because otherwise it's going to be difficult. Like for example, in Bombay itself, now they are working on a coastal road. They've destroyed the entire you know ecosystem along the coast. Now we don't have any more sand beaches except for those two spots, Juhu and Chowpatty and Versova. There's nothing else left, for the ecosystem along the coastline in Bombay. So they're destroying that right there. So that is going to impact, the marine life, because a lot of marine life is dependent on that ecosystem for their food, right? In the same way, we are destroying a lot of other, ecosystems for our sustainability. But I think it's time that we need to make this a symbiotic relationship with nature and be able to live hand in hand and at peace. And for that, I think it is required that we start moving towards, uh, saving our planet, saving the climate, moving towards renewable sources, stop using plastic or reduce our use of plastic, or use more recycled goods, etc. It has to be done pretty soon, because if we I know the way we function. If the way we function normally, dekha jayega, next year karenge, this that, it will be forever, and we'll be still in the same situation. Nothing's going to come out of it.
So, using what you're saying about the need to really switch things quickly, turn things around, um, what do you foresee for the Indian energy sector going ahead? What do you think the government will do as concrete action?
So I'm not sure what the government will do, but I can definitely tell you what the government should do. Because in the end, the government, the policymakers are not going to probably think from the way I think, or many other people. So first of all, we need to have proper policies in place, right? First, we are very dependent on other countries for our renewable energy components, starting with China, right? And the reason being that the reason for that is because we are not able to manufacture our own components at the rate and the price that China provides it to us, right? That is because we don't have enough subsidies within our country to support the manufacturing of these products, right? So the government needs to start focusing on that. I mean, yes, they have definitely added safeguard duty towards, foreign make products and stuff, but that is still not enough. The costing of those components are still cheaper than what we get in India. So we need to be able to, first of all, have this entire Make in India thing done, right? Where we have it at a very low cost, right? Which is going to benefit a lot of people over here in our country, because it's going to give them more job opportunities, right? So people welfare is going to become better, and that so once the manufacturing increases, we can use our own products, which will be good quality products, because they are subsidized by government. So automatically people will want to make better quality, right, and not cut corners. And then once they have that in place, then we can use those components to actually increase our capacity and install. So India should try to focus to be an independent country. Right now we're too dependent on other countries, right? And the problem is that it's not only in renewable energy, but in a lot of other sectors also. Like even for example, our clothes, right? We go and buy brands which do not even belong to India. They're made in India, but we're spending money and paying them the money, instead of having a local brand which is giving us the products directly. Maybe yes, there are a few small startups that are coming up, and they are letting people get these products, export quality products. But we're not thinking about our own people. We're thinking about how to make the other countries rich. That is our problem, and that is where the government really needs to step in and see how we can internally support each other, right, and make this country better. And whatever may be required from the government side, to subsidize it for people to go solar or wind or whatever sort of renewable energy. Right now, the government had actually come up with a lot of policies and subsidies before, but now they've limited it to only residential, right? And for example, in a city like Bombay, which uses a lot of power, there's no place to put solar energy, right? Very few buildings or houses have that opportunity and space to put it, right? So keeping all those things in mind, we need to understand that, and we are not the major users of electricity power. It's the industries and the factories. They are using most of the power over there. So they need to also be given some incentive, not directly, maybe indirectly, right? Maybe through tax benefits or some tax deductions or some other sources, whatever the government may think it is, feasible in their hands, and whatever they feel that they can do. We need to try to help our people within our country, and so that way we can get more motivated to go green, right? And it will benefit people long term, because renewable energy, like solar energy, is not a short term investment, it's a long term investment. And the payback for that is really good. Like up to 25 years, you'll be getting money back once your system is paid off. So all this education to the mass is required to be given from the government side. Like how we have the PM always talking about say subsidy on the gas cylinders and stuff like that. I think some little concentration like this on renewable energy also would be a good boost, and people will realize, that okay, fine, I'm getting this benefit also from it, and it's going to benefit me in future. So let me see if I can move towards renewable energy. Automatically, our thermal dependent power will reduce, and you'll have sustainability, because now people are their own producers. So whenever they have sun shining, for example, or wind blowing, they have their power. They're not dependent on the grid, which may work, may not work. So it's basically you're trying to make yourself self-sustainable, right? And again, sustainable with the environment. And that is how I feel that the government should come up with some policies, right? We can't just have hard numbers every time, but we need to have a little emotions also in this entire thing. And that is what I think drives the people of India, the emotions more than any hard numbers. Maybe not for investors and finance people, but common people, definitely emotions work more than numbers for them.
I think you're right. Self-sufficiency will definitely come out as a big focus after this pandemic, because the recession is largely, after all, because of the extreme globalization we have today. Definitely. And finally, actually, I wanted to ask, how do you think an economy backed by renewables compares to an economy backed by non-renewables when it comes to effective management of the pandemic? What relationship do you think might be there?
So I'm not sure if this is directly linked, the pandemic with renewables and non-renewables. But I just feel that yes, if we were a little more inclined towards renewables, and I think if we were more advanced with our renewables, then I don't think we would have a situation where we would reach a recession as such, because people would be more stabilized, right? Because first of all, there would be more job opportunity that would have been created. So people have already increased their, you know, um their their lifestyle has changed, of course, right? Because of that job opportunity, better lifestyle, right? And they have more savings, right, that they can actually rely on, right? And you know they're not completely banked. They're not banking on, say, for example, you know daily wages or something of that sort, right? Because they already have their planning, savings are happening, and there would have been constant, um, development going on. So people, I think, would have been a little more sorted, right? And not to worry about, not go like hand to mouth and stuff like that. You know, and I think that it would have clearly told us, given us a clear picture that, we are banking on um, a sustainable source of energy, not dependent on coal. We're not going to be adding on any more pollution to the environment, stuff like that. So I think it would have been a little better situation. Like if you see in different countries in the world right now that are affected with COVID, there have been places. I mean, there have been people everywhere, people that have been laid off, salary cuts and all that stuff to be able to sustain. But the government is supporting them also, right? And also the biggest thing I think that India lacks is the that people are not paying tax or not contributing equally towards the country, right? If equal contribution is there as much as they can as per their income, right? The government also gets a little support in supporting us in such situations, right? For example, in the US, with the current situation, right, small and medium scale businesses are being funded by the government to pay salaries of employees in this situation, but that is not happening in our country, right? In fact, the government is telling us don't reduce the salary. But how will people be able to do that if they don't have income? Because people are working on a day-to-day basis. There's not enough savings, right? And I think that if we had all these things in place, it would have at least saved us a lot of money, right? And we would not been dependent on day-to-day work to get our source, funds and stuff like that. But that's just my way of thinking. I'm not sure what the others may think about this.
All right. That's all the questions I have. Do you have anything you would like to add?
No, I just want to tell everybody that right now, whatever I'm talking to you, apart from whatever you asked about Suntuity and all, but just as a normal human being, right, I think we should start really thinking about what we are doing with our world where we live, right? And we really need to start being a little self-sufficient, self-sustainable, and be able to work in a symbiotic relationship with nature, right? It's enough we have exploited, right? It's time we start realizing that and start moving towards renewable energy, recycling, reusing, and maybe going back to the old days where they actually used glass milk bottles and refilled it every time when the milkman came. So something like that needs to be done, but it's time we start doing it because otherwise we're not going to be able to. We may survive it, but I don't think our children and generations to come will have a world to live in. So if you care about them, then start doing something now. Otherwise, it's going to be too late.
Thank you so much, Iman. That's really profound.
Thank you.
All right. And as a closing note, stay safe, stay informed, and keep hustling.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.